All right, video 4. First of all, I want to say you guys should be proud of yourself for getting through it this far. If this is brand new to you, this is probably a lot of mental work, a lot of figuring things out. I may be running through things and not explaining the minute details of it, but if you guys have figured it out thus far, or if you haven't asked me questions, then that is awesome for you. You're welcome to ask me questions. What we're going to get started here is my other favorite part. Most of working music is my favorite part, but I love drums. Drums are usually pretty easy for me, at least in my opinion. No one said I'm any good at them, but I think I just love them. So we're going to work on the drums, get this in here, and then after that, we'll get going on the drop. So one of the most important things for the drop is the percussion. We need a beat. We need to figure out what kind of feeling we're going for here. So, as it was probably assumed from the rest of the song, we're going to have kind of a standard just, but we're going to go one by one until we wrap up the drums. And that's going to be all about this video. So, let's take it from the top here and talk about exactly what we need to do. So, here we go.
All my life, been waiting for you and we can't ignore everything going on in between us. In the light, in the dark, you're my witness. All my life, been waiting for you and we can't ignore everything going on in between us. In the light, in the dark, you're my witness. All my life, all my life, all my life, all my life.
We have the drop drums, and then we'll get into it. So, first thing, drums should be really easy for you guys too, because I have every single sample, every single file loaded up exactly the way it's named in project here. So for the soft kick, I want you guys go ahead, get yourself an audio file. Got our gold track here. And we are going to drag and drop our soft kick. So if you have that file, right on build one, that's what it's going to look like. So as with every piece of this song, you can absolutely develop your own pattern. You guys can take the creative initiative to do something different, but for teaching purposes, we're going to reproduce what I have. So for this soft kick here, I chose the soft kick because we're not quite to the drop yet. It's a dynamic piece. Sometimes I'll put a different sample in here for soft kick. Other times I will actually throw an EQ automation on the heavy kick. So it's actually the same kick, but we're wiping the top end off of it. That's why I call it the soft kick, because you don't get that top end crunch or that top end sound that may or may not come with the sample you chose. So anyway, the soft kick here, I decided we're going to put it right here on downbeat one. So we're coming into the build. So we're going to do it here. So we got this one.
All my life,
Bum, bum, bum.
all
So you can copy this guy over. Bum, bum, bum. Keep going.
my life,
Bum, bum,
all
bum, bum,
my
bum, bum,
life,
bum, 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 bum.
all my life.
Jump. All right, let's keep going. Is there a better way to copy and paste this stuff, they say? Not really. You can obviously, once you get a section here, you can do that. And then we're going to copy and paste this. And then from here, let's make sure this is. So in order to make sure this is directly on the grid, which is very important with drums, depending on what you're doing for this EDM song, we want everything to be perfect. So we're going to take these and just make sure they cut right at that section here so we can drag and drop all these kicks and they're perfectly on grid. Then we're going to put one on the downbeat and then we'll talk about this in a second. We're just going to put it there for now. So this is what we have. So we didn't do anything to it. We just drag and dropped. All right. So here we go.
You're my witness all my life, all my life, all my life, all my life.
Cool. So we have our soft kick in here. Let's go into our snare pieces. So we'll go ahead and work on this EDM snare. So same thing, get yourself a track, audio track, and we're going to drag and drop the EDM snare, which is in my files. Boop. We're going to put it right there. So let's talk about this for a second. Since we have a kick and a snare now, we can kind of think about it. So I wanted at the end of the piece here, we talked about that silence in the last video. I wanted the drums to kind of initiate the drop is about to happen. So if we listen back.
All my life, all my life.
And from there, we can get into the whole beat. So we know that the snare drum is going to be on beat, what is this? Beat 2 of every bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to keep that going. So let's copy and paste this guy all the way through. We know our drop is going to the end of this section here. So we need to copy and paste that multiple times. You can hit Command R. We'll copy and paste, but you just need to make sure that they're in line. So we're just going to take this to the end of the drop here. Boom. There we go. We have our EDM snare. So we have thus far just that guy. All right. So let's get into the heavy kick. So we're going to drag and drop that guy too. Let's go ahead and get you guys a new track. Gold. Drop in our heavy kick. Let's get the backbone of the song in here. So how to make a beat, decide what you want. A lot of times I think that whatever you do, putting a kick on the downbeat of each new chord is a good idea, or it just feels better. You don't have to. I've heard plenty of songs that don't have a downbeat kick and the bass comes in at a different time. It's all fine. It's music. That's the best part of it. So let's go ahead, copy and paste what I had. So if we listen back to the original project, this is what we would have after we're done with the heavy kick. So pretty simple. So let's go ahead and do that. Probably speed up this process for you guys in the video. All right. We're going to delete that downbeat because if I'm not mistaken, this kick pattern repeats. Let's double check. Looks good to me. So real quick, before we play this back, some things we want to keep in mind and double check, and we'll get into this in detail during mixing. But just for now, for playback when we're listening to it, these little kicks that are shoved in here, we want to make sure we have a fade on them. Otherwise, there could be popping because we're cutting that audio file. And then any of the ones that have enough space, just drag the tail out so you get the full brunt of the kick. So really, it looks like, let's highlight these and see what I did. I just put a fade of one on all of them. So you can highlight all these guys, go to the region bar, fade one. Now, for some of the shorter kicks, you might need a greater fade. Again, we'll get into that during mixing when we're critically listening and trying to make sure everything's ready to go. So thus far, all right, pretty simple, pretty boring. Yes. So we're going to layer that snare drum. So the way I think about this a lot, we have these two extra snares. I'm going to go ahead and play it back. And then if we add this, now obviously that tonal snare is a bit of spice. But when I'm selecting snare drums, I'm thinking in terms of frequency and in terms of sound. So I would say for starters, this smack snare, that's going to be a lot of our, let's pull up an EQ. That's going to be a lot of our body in this song. So you can see it's peaking about 150. So that's going to be covering a lot of the lower frequencies in our snare. We're trying to create one snare out of multiple snares, but make it beautiful. So adding the EDM snare, let's make our gold track. Let's check the EQ on this too. So on our EDM snare, this one's a little higher. So we get more of a presence about the 215, 220, 225 mark, which is more or less a traditional snare. You get a lot of the 250. So that's cool. So we have kind of a bottom piece, different sounds, and then we have our, we'll call it the middle piece. And then we have this tonal snare, which I decided that was a really cool sound to incorporate in here. So between all of them together, we get this new snare drum. Which is pretty cool. So I'm going to skip ahead. I'm going to drag and drop the smack snare and the tonal snare the same way we did the EDM snare. And I'll meet you guys back here in just a second. All right, and we're back. So we have these guys, I grouped them together so you guys could see a little bit better. We worked on the soft kick, the heavy kick, EDM snare, smack snare, tonal snare. So that's going to match our project pieces down here in blue. So what we have thus far.
All my life, all my life, all my life, all my life.
Cool. So that's what we have. Let's add more flavor. So we want to stick some hi-hats in here. Hopefully you guys know the drill. Get yourself an audio track. You can color code it whatever you want. I'm doing gold, so you guys know exactly what I'm doing. So we're going to drag and drop our hi-hat. Boop, just like that. And this hi-hat sample was pulled from Splice. It is at 140 BPM, so we don't have to do any kind of tempo adjustment. We don't have to chop it up. We can just drag and drop that. So that's super awesome. So we're going to go ahead from the drop. Listen to how this changes our piece here. Don't worry about this EQ. Nice. So add some life to it. We're going to put it in here. We're going to go ahead, copy it. So let's go ahead and put 4 bars down here. We'll talk about this in just a second. So when we're getting through it, some of these things, when I first start making the drums for the drop, these little cuts, these muted regions will not come until later, until the music's in there. And I'm trying to put some more technicality, put some more life into the music. So it's just not drilling the whole time. So we'll talk about that in a second. Let's go ahead for now, so we don't forget. Let's cut that. And we're going to mute these in this project so you guys can see. Now, again, with any kind of cuts, we want to make sure we add fades. So it looks like in the original project, I put fades on both ends of this hi-hat sample because I don't know who made this hi-hat sample. I don't know if it was recorded correctly. It sounds good, but just to be safe, I'll put fades on the beginning and the end just to CYA any kind of popping that might occur. So here we are thus far. Got our hi-hats. Cool. So now we want to add our crash. Let's go ahead, drop a crash in here. Crash symbol. Scoot this guy up here so you guys can see. All right. Crash symbol. Pull in from the files. Just put it on the downbeat. And then from here, this one's going to be in line with the hi-hat, kind of the off kilter thing that we discussed. And again, this stuff, we're doing this very methodically. When I'm writing music, writing drops, I'll go back to the music, I'll go back to the drums, I'll go back to the vocals, I'll go back to this, go back to that. And that's how these kind of muted regions occur. So for now, just putting them in place as we have them, we get. So the crash adds a lot of life. Then we get this part. Very cool. And then one of the last things, we have the ride. Let's go ahead and put that guy up here. And again, our ride symbol is in time. It's at the tempo of the song, so we don't have to worry too much about it. Copy and paste this. If you have a song file, an audio file that claims to be is labeled in tempo, it doesn't hurt to just double check that it lines perfectly on grid in your project, because sometimes, who knows, it could be like 139.5. And if you just keep copying and pasting this throughout the rest of your track, you're going to find by the end of the track, you're like a quarter note off, and that is going to really mess with you. So we have our rides here. So if we listen to this, they're on the offbeat. I wanted them on the downbeat. So this file, it is in tempo. It is in time, but I wanted them on the downbeat. So all we have to do, since this is in time, is just pull this back. Boom. So we're right before that. And now it's on the downbeat. So we have. Nice. And then I wanted this to get out of there, so we can go ahead and do that. So now we're here. Let's double check this. I do have a muted region on that. Looks like it ends right there. So very good. So that's where we're at with our ride. So you guys just heard that. There is a drum fill down here. We're going to go ahead and put that in now. And it'll make more sense later when we have the music again. I'm going back and forth constantly when I'm writing. Fortunately, we have this drum fill that is in time as well. So we're going to drag and drop this guy right here. And we're done. Look at that. So I put fades on this as well. So fade 1, 1. So if we're listening all the way over here, it's a cute little drum fill. So we'll work on drums for the rest of the song and getting into drop 2 after we get to our music for the full drop. So if you guys want to listen back, this is what we have thus far for this piece, for this section.
All my life, all my life.
Cut the music. Right there. All right. So drums are pretty simple, just audio files, drag and drop, a couple fades, couple cuts. You guys should be ready to go. So we'll get into the best part of the song right after this.